Okay, Twitch is online. Let's see what else we got. YouTube's online. Okay. Not showing up. There it is. Okay. Okay. We are up and running. So today I decided that I was going to go through, I don't know, just dig through some of my pictures in the past 10 years. I've done a couple of recaps of, I think, 2010 or 2009 to 2011. Excuse me. But I found some more, so I thought I'd just share them. This goes everything from Capital Drift on Vancouver Island, Victoria, to Evergreen Drift in Monroe, Washington, to Knox Mountain Hill Climb in Kelowna, BC, Pacific Raceways, and PGP in Kent, Washington. That's 2011, so let's start there. So this is Capital Drift. I have no idea who this is. It was 10 years ago when I took a picture of him doing something. Couldn't tell you what it was or why, but I did. Driver's meeting, of course. This was Pete Schroeder from Neptune D in a Cressida he traded for something. I don't know why or don't know what the deal was there, but this would be, I'm going to say his missile car for the next little while. It was a 7M, I think it was a 7M in it. Anyway, it was a fun car. Don't remember who that was, but pretty typical 240 on either XXRs or Sport Maxes or something. This was a 5M powered Corolla, I think. Can't remember exactly, but it was fun. An SR powered Corolla hatch. Probably one of my, I don't know, favorite cars to take pictures of, just because it had so much contrast to it. It really, I don't know, looked well. And probably one of the more famous pictures I ever took. This was in 2011. Made its way around the forums and internet for years. I don't know why, but it was cool. It was fun. Yes, the Vert. So this was funny because I actually found out that recently this was alive and kicking again. It now has an RB in it and a roll cage, and it's blue, I think. Pretty sure this is the same car. This was an SR. This was a pretty minty hatch at some point, but it got beat up over the years. And yeah, this was Josh Whitehead. I think he lives in Vancouver now. Honestly, not sure. Or Pete. Can't remember who that was. I think that was Trevor. Oh, maybe not. Oh, the curler guys were always so hard because they always had so many curlers. No idea who that was. More Josh. Yeah. Another Corolla with wide bodies and really small tires. Who was that? I should know it. Again, don't. Yeah, that was Capital Drift 2011. Not much to say there. Not much of it. And so Hard to know for sure. Oh, come on. This is loading off my spare drive, so it might take a bit. Okay, so this was if I remember this car correctly, this was the one that terrified me a little bit. It was an FCRX7 with a rotary and a diff that was ratchet strapped in. Yes, you heard me correctly. It was ratchet strapped into the car. And it somehow made it through a whole day and didn't fall out. I have no idea how. This was Nikki. This was an SR13 hatch Brady standard for 2011 at Evergreen. Fun car. She came out for a long time. Not sure where she went. I'm not even sure where the car went. But definitely improved a lot over the years. Fun to watch. Nick Schnell. This was, I think, his first 1J powered coupe. No, maybe the second. I think this might have been the second car. Not much to say about Nick. He was always fun to watch. Always made me laugh. And I can't remember. I think that was Austin. I'm not sure. This was, I'm pretty sure that was the original Drift Office car that I talked about in one of my other videos. Yeah, that was that one. And then it's just got a new paint job and a new kit or something on it. Andrew Larson, after he rolled the 350, it went through a lot of generations, this car, but he was always just driving it to the bitter edge. Oh, Casey Torres, Tyler Grimsley, Corey Keyser. This was a weird swap. Well, not weird swap, but unusual swap. So it was an SR powered FC. It did great. Like, there was no doubting it. Like, it was a fantastic car, and it put him through years of drifting, and I think he even did Pro-Am in this car. They beefed the SR up a little bit, but it was still an SR in it. I don't think I ever went to anything different while he had the FC. Oh, yes, the bump starts. Periodically, people bring cars that don't work, so you have to bump start them on the line. So you line up with your friend and get them to bump start you. And yes, it happened more than once. Little tandem train action. Steve. So this was a Toyota Soarer with 1J in it, and typical Steve style, it was sitting on the ground. And it also had no windshield wipers, which you can also tell that it's been raining, which could be a lot of fun. I think we had the start line guy wipe the window off every time we went out. I don't know. More Tyler Grimsley. This was a rarity, I guess, still. It was a KAT car. He and his dad came out and campaigned it in Pro-Am for years. And a couple of years ago now, I guess, after I think he just finished school when they pulled the V8 car out. They've been building a V8 car for years, or for a couple of years anyway. But I think they finally pulled it out and did some Pro-Am and stuff in it. And he did significantly better. Because this was a pretty wound out KAT, I think, at that point. It was mildly built, made somewhere in the 400 horsepower territory. But that's pretty minimum on the bank for Pro-Am now. More Steve and no windshield wipers. I think that was Matt, right? Hi, Steve. Andrew bought a race suit that might have been a little small for him. We called him Santa Claus. I think you can tell why. This is inside that 350. He stripped everything out after the roll and put a cage in it already, but just stripped everything else out. Something pretty much everybody has done at Evergreen is head off the bank. So when you initiate on the lower edge here, if you don't get quite enough grip out of the bank and you ride a little bit high, you get into the dirt. If you get into the dirt, you start to go further over the bank. And if you've got enough speed, not enough grip, you go all the way over the bank. Which happens to a lot of people. Yeah, what else we got? Andre, so this was a carbureted V8 powered S13. I still don't know how he managed to campaign this for so long, but he really did a great job. Like carburetors and drifting just don't seem great to me, but they put together some like really wacky circle car carburetor setup, and it did great. So I don't know what happened to him or the car, but I'm just seeing him out there. This was Chris Jenneret, and I think this was the CNC. Yeah, it was the CNC Autosport days. So Chris was the shop manager at CNC Autosport for a while. I think he's got his own stuff now. Not 100% sure what he's doing, but last I saw, he was building a car with Honda, like a Type R car. So it looked like fun. Not really sure what else he's been doing. One of my favorite people ever, Ian Fournier. This was, yes, I think this was the year before he went. No, maybe the year he went to Formula D. This might have been Pro-Am at Formula D. Anyway, this was still RB. Oh no, this was V8. I don't know if it was supercharged yet, but I think this was still V8. Yep, Mark Chris Jenneret. This was an SR car, which was a little wild to me, I think. Like, it was pretty high horsepower. It was in the, I think, mid fives or low fives. But it kept up to pretty much everything else. I don't remember who this was, but I do remember the car. Yeah. Never a good sight when you see a corner worker running with the fire extinguisher. And yes, I'm pretty sure he was on fire. But I don't think anything bad happened. I think it just burned some stuff. Seth. So this was an SR powered Corolla with a tube front and S13 front suspension everywhere. So it had S13 coilovers, lower control arms. Pretty sure it had the subframe in it, tension rods, like everything S13 was in the front of this car. He struggled with it a little bit for the years, but I mean, it was a bunch of fun. It was an SR with a 2871, made probably like less than 300 horsepower, but great fun. I think this was Donnie Jones. No, yeah, this might have been Donnie Jones. I really don't. Yeah, this would have been Donnie Jones. Not much to say about Donnie. He came and campaigned in Pro-Am. This car, I don't know if he ever did grassroots. I know he just came and did Pro-Am, but I think that's what he did. And yeah, I don't know where he went. It's been a number of years since I've seen him out. I think he was finishing up his school and got a job and life, and as everybody just gets in the way, the fun things drop off. I don't remember what this was for, but I think we were giving Victor a steering wheel. If anybody remembers, it'd be great. Another car I remember, but I don't know who drove it or anything. I don't remember anything about it. Really clean car, though. really well built. That's about all I remember. I think this was Cameron. Yeah, this was a KA car, but I think this at this point was SR. Again, 10 years ago, hard to remember. Peter Taylor. Peter campaigned this KA car. It was an NAKA for so long. And then he put a LS in it, I believe. I think it was an LS. And just tried to do Pro-Am. I don't know if he ever... And then I think he got married and had a kid, and life gets in the way again. But it was always fun to see him, like, just drive the balls off this thing. Just doing grassroots and having a blast. Oh, this was Julia. So in 2000... what was that, like 2007 to 2010 or something? Russell and Julia O'Connell organized all these events. This was one of their 3, I guess, S chassis cars. This was her car. It was a pretty basic, like SR in it. It did great. No real mods to it. Just went out lap after lap after lap and just kept going. Haven't seen them in a couple of years, but I'll always loved hanging out with them. This was... crap, I can't remember his name. I like the car, though. It was a very unique car, and I had no idea what the kit was on it, but it looked really good. And then it got drifted, and then it looked a little less good. It was still pretty good. This will be a name people remember. This was Matt Van Kirk. I think this was right when he put the SR in. So this car went... I don't know if he still has this car, but last I saw, it had a KA in it. It was essentially his missile car at some point. And they were doing... Yeah, I think this was right when he got the SR in it. He was probably 16 or 17. Stock wheels and tires, just came out and shredded and just had a good time. Now he's, last I saw, was living in Australia, competing in one of the series down there. Oh, Gwag. David. Man, I miss all these people. Joey Portelli. Another KAT car, made about 300 horsepower. He doesn't own the car anymore. He sold it years ago now. But probably one of the cleanest S14s you'll ever see. If you ever find it again, I have no idea where it went. Somebody's got it. Last I heard, it was a stunt driver that bought it and was learning how to drift in it. So hopefully it works out. Can't remember who this car is, but I remember the wrinkle. Definitely a used and abused car. But big smile as always. Or Peter, Marc-Andre Toto. If you're ever at Duffin's Donuts in Vancouver, BC, say hi to Mark. He will be there because he works a lot. He works mostly nights, so does a lot of baking and stuff, but you'll see Mark around. And this car is now, this was the SR. He had SR in it for a long time. It made about 300 wheel at this point. And then once that let go, he built a 2J, put it in. It makes significantly more than 300 now. But he doesn't get out to drive it as much as he used to, unfortunately. But hopefully in maybe the next year or two, we'll get him out and do some tandem days and have some fun with him. Big Rob. Rob Primo. Not much I can say about Rob. Rob was the nicest, tallest man you'll ever meet. And that was his 2J S14. I met him when that car was stock. Almost stock. Had an SR in it. And a welded diff and some coilovers. And that was about it. That was, I'm going to say like 2005, maybe, when there was a group of guys that used to come up to Boundary Bay Airport, and we used the skid pad. I think it was Rob and Nikolai, Earl, Chris. I was trying to think of who else came up with them. Lucas. Was that Lucas? I think he came once or twice. Anyway, it's been, what are we at, 15 years now? Wow. Last I heard, he was rebuilding the car, but he lives in California now. I think he works for PlayStation? I don't know. Busy boy, being life, but he competed in his car in Pro-Am for years, and I think he did a little bit of a Pro 2 or Formula D stint at some point. I don't know. Anyway, hi Rob. If you're watching this, I miss you. Been a while. Oh, Roland. Roland has done it all. There's really nothing this man has not done. He's done grassroots and multiple varieties of cars, all S13 coupes at some point in his life. All SRs, yeah. This car ended up taking him through Pro-Am into Pro with Ian, I think. Yeah, and then they did a stint with, I think he did the West Coast stuff like Ian did. But nothing really crazy about this car. It was an SR. It made a good, I think, 400 or 500 horsepower at its peak. And yeah, he just drove it. He is probably one of the smoothest drivers I've ever met. He's so easy to drive with. But definitely a good time. And I mean, picture kind of speaks for itself. It's Roland. Always makes you laugh. So I think this was Ricky. It's hard to tell who owned this car this time. Pretty sure this was Ricky or Victor. I don't know. I'm pretty sure at this point it had a VQ in it. Yeah, I'm going to probably say VQ time. So this would have been probably Ricky. It did great. Like for a VQ car, probably one of the first VQ swaps I ever saw in person. But it did great. Like it was really just a simple seat time car, had a cage in it. And he brought it out to all kinds of events and just went lap after lap after lap after lap after lap. Great car. Oh, Travis. Hi, Travis. Blat Blat Pew Pew was his blog, as you can see on his camera. That was from Intech. I don't remember who that was, though. Another SR car. This is J.R. Miller. I think he's bringing this car back. Somebody told me he was rebuilding it. He went off to basic training, I think, and then hasn't been out in a couple of years, but I think he had another car he was drifting in the meantime, but he's bringing this one back, I hope. This one just reminds me of great times because he lost a rear window one day in a grassroots battle. So he was drifting and the rear window pressurized and just popped out of the car and scared the shit out of the person behind him. So that one will forever be ingrained in my head. This would have been probably Formula D. Mike Phillips in the blue car and Chris Jenrett in his S14. It's crazy to think like 10 years ago this was tandem and Pro-Am. I mean, that's pretty solid. We're not talking like riding each other's doors, but again, we're in Pro-Am. Like, you don't even see that really in Pro 2 last year. And on the 5.8s, it was really a step up from the couple of years before. So this was a good season. Yeah, more Mike chasing down Ian. Good bit of tandem. This car, I think Mike's car was still an SR, so we're talking somewhere around the 400 horsepower territory. Like, these cars were not crazy powered. Ian's would have been pretty similar with the VK56 in it. I think this was, yeah, so this was, I think this was the battle. Like, Roland and Ian went one more time 3 times, and this was for the final. And when they started the final battle, neither one of them had any tires to swap to. So they were both on their last set of tires doing almost 10 laps on the 5/8. So when they finished, those tires had cords and nothing left. I don't know how neither one of them crashed, but I mean, it's a testament to how they drive. They both ran the wall, and if this is the battle, I think it was anyway, it was just wild to watch. I loved it. Pretty typical Ian missing a bumper or having a bumper falling off. He loves to touch walls. Mike. Yeah, these are the good old days. I think it was, yeah, Grassroots. Grassroots, you win a free entry to another Grassroots event, which is pretty nice. And Pro-Am, you win some money sometimes, depending how many sponsors they get. But yeah, Roland got first, Ian got second, and Mike got third. This was a pretty typical result for, I guess, Pro-Am in the Northwest. Like, one of these three guys during this season of Pro-Am was always on the podium. Okay, so let's move on to Knox. Okay. Okay, I think I've gone through this in another video, but this was a full tube frame car with an L28 in it out of a Datsun. Pretty sure this was the right car. There was 2 of them. One was still a 300ZX body. The other one was a 350 body, but it was just crazy to hear like an L28 come ripping up the hill, because they're very distinct sound cars, and then see this come flying around the corner, or the 350Z. Like, you just weren't expecting it, but these guys were real quick up this hill. This is Andre. Just custom another video, but still competes on the hill. Still the same car. It's come through a lot of changes. Like, it has a chopped roof now and a different wing setup and bigger tires, bigger motor. It's fast, like real fast. This car hasn't really changed at all that I know of. It's still a Vauxhall powered, like a Vauxhall V6 in it. It's fast. It's very fast, but I don't think it has changed at all in the past 10 years that I've been up. Not something I'm used to seeing on Go Fast Bits. Used to seeing these as drift cars, so this was, I'm pretty sure this was an RB powered S13, and it was just fun to watch him rip up the hill in it and not see it sideways. Square Body Volvo. I don't remember much about this car. Josh might remember, but I think it had a V8 in it of some sort. Can't remember. This was one of 2 MGB GTs that come up. This one's factory powered, no body modifications, like pretty classically looking race car. And then his friend has the opposite. Pretty sure this was Sheridan, and then this one's Bruce, but 2 CRXs. I'm pretty sure they both had D series motors at this point. Also pretty sure they've both gone to B series by now. Not 100% sure, but Sheridan and Bruce, longtime runners of the hill, compete against each other every year. Wait, SP, that'd be SP1, I think. That looks like a 1 to you? Yeah, I think that'll be D series. No, I miss this car. I haven't seen it in a couple years. It was a turbocharged Dodge Omni, and man, did it rip up this hill. Like, I don't know where he came from, but I love watching this car. It just was fun to watch because it was not what I expected the first time I saw it when it just came barreling up the hill. One of a couple of classical Porsches that used to come up, and I haven't seen them in a couple of years, but I'm pretty sure that's because one went slightly down a hill. Not in a good way. Got saved by a tree. Let's say that. Here's the other tube frame car. This is a 350Z body on a tube frame car. I'm pretty sure this was an LS powered Mustang. Or was that the other one? I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure this one has a pretty wild weekend. And you'll see in the left corner here of the screen, this is where our volunteers sit on this corner, on the corner before, as they sit up the hill far enough and behind some trees so that they can run down and sweep between runs. Because everybody goes off in that corner. They nick the gravel all the time. More Andre. A fairly stock R32 GTR. It was really fun to watch. I've owned 2 of these. Never thought about ripping one up Knox, but this was pretty stock motor, big wide tires, and just looked like a lot of fun. Like, he was just driving it as fast as he could. I think it had just coilovers and exhaust and maybe an intake on it, but not talking anything crazy. It was pretty stock and very wild. I can imagine what that thing could do with more power, like a lot more power or a lot more grip. But it'd be fun. I think this was a Rover V8 powered Datsun. It's the car I think of. One of my favorite sounding cars, or as far as Datsuns goes. I don't know why I like the Rover V8 sound, but it's beautiful. I can't remember his name now. This was another ice racer, and why can't I remember his name? That's gonna bug me now. Anyway, this is a propane-powered turbo Prelude. This was the first year he added a splitter on the front to try and get some more grip out of the car. Car was already real fast. Splitter made it faster, and he painted the car so it's one color now. It was a multitude of grays before. But yeah, it was going pretty quick. And then it wasn't. He was fine. He went off shortly after that corner. I think the next corner he went off. Car got pretty wrecked, but he took the drivetrain out and put it in another shell he had and just kept going. I don't remember who this was, but I do remember the brake lockups. I think this was a pretty stock BMW. Yeah, just somebody came out. You don't need much with the stock cars. I think you need a roll bar with, like, if it's a stock power plant and not a lot of mods to it. Like, I think you can do tires and wheels. But stock power plant, like, you don't need a full cage in it. I think you just need a roll bar. This was a different story. This is a midget racer. I think he's from the Penticton area. He does the circle track there, but takes all the bodywork off for Knox to come run. just save some weight and whatever. But very quick car, and it gets faster every year. This time he was on some like with some really sticky tires, not slicks. And then I think the last couple of years he's come up with slicks. But he's also been off a few times too. Yeah, those look almost like rain tires. So they might have gotten a little hot and a little slippery. One of the few open wheel cars that has come out. I've only seen maybe 10 or 15 in the past 10 years. They don't come out as much as, I mean, I'd like to, but they have to change everything about the car to run this hill because it's very bumpy, as you can see here, like rubbing the bottom of the chassis going through 4B. Not really something I guess you'd want to do. Here's the other MGB. I always forget these guys' names, but this is a small block Chevy in this one. I'm pretty sure it's a small block Chevy, but very different kind of car. It's full race mode compared to the other car. V8 in it, big tires, wing, very fast car. And pretty sure they replace this front splitter every year because they just grind it to bits. And this is one of what I used to be. I think this was a pair of Volvos. Or not Volvos. Alphas, sorry. And these guys have been running the hill for a long time. And I think the first time I ever saw, like, so these ones are funny because they've gotten this down to a science. There's enough fuel in the car to warm the tires up at the bottom of the hill, go to the start line, wait a few seconds to do your start, and then get to the finish line, and they pretty much run out of fuel crossing the finish line. I don't know how they do it, but they have figured it out over the past probably 25 years. Exactly how much fuel it takes to get point A to point B, and if they get stalled on the line, they back up and put more in. But yeah, you always, when they're coming down the hill, they're coming without any power because there's no fuel. More of Sheridan. I love this car. It was just a beautiful Porsche. I wish more of them would come out, but I understand, like, it's a pretty risky event, the hill climb. Oh. I hadn't seen this car in a couple of years, but I did see it last year, I think, again. Pretty stock little Mini. Not sure what's in it. But I think it's an original power plant. Who knows, really? This was my friend Aaron and his Miata. He decided one year he just wanted to run Knox, so put together a pretty simple little Miata. No motor mods in this one, roll cage, and just put some slicks on it when it didn't Knox, or slick-ish tires. But he definitely had some troubles in this corner. He locked the brakes up all the time coming up this corner. Probably one of the nicest 510s you'll ever see on the hill. Still comes out. Not as often, but definitely still comes out. Beautiful car. Another one of the Porsches I was talking about. I'm pretty sure this was Shane. This car went through a lot of phases. If it's the car I'm thinking of. Pretty sure this was one of the supercharged versions that he did. I don't know. Hard to say for sure. But quick little car. He had a bunch of fun with it, definitely. Oh, one of those Scirocco's. I haven't seen this car in years, so I don't know what happened to it. But there used to be 2 or 3 Scirocco's, like classic ones that would come up and race. But I don't see them anymore. Another open wheel car. This was powered by a snowmobile motor, I'm pretty sure. And it was belt driven, if I remember correctly. Quick car, fast, had a bunch of fun. I mean, it was definitely, you'd hear this car coming for all the way up the hill. Another open wheel car that we saw earlier. This was not something I see. Like, it's a pretty stock. You can still the back seats. Pretty stock car. On the slicks and just having a blast. And that's half the fun of racing. Is just taking whatever you've got and enjoying it. This was not something you see every day. It was a molded wide body Mustang. It was fairly well done bodywork wise, but not something I would have been taking up this hill. I mean, it would have real potential to get pretty beaten up, but he was definitely pushing pretty hard. More of these guys. I don't know why I can't remember his name, but there's two of them. You'll see most cars on Knox are dual driven, so you'll see 1, 2, 3 on the door. Or these guys, if the one comes off, it's one guy. The one goes on, it's another. More of the Alpha. Campbell. Probably one of the more exciting drivers you'll see come up this hill. This car is very powerful. It's on big slicks, and he's sideways a lot. He's got a heavy right foot and knows how to use it, but he's, pretty much a veteran of this hill and knows where to put the car and how to put the car, and it goes up very quickly. One of the Mustangs that had some front end problems. He went off in one of the corners earlier, 5 or 6 or something, and they took the front end off and just kept going. So that was good. Didn't do a lot of damage to the car, just some beat up body panels, and took the rest off and kept going. A 2-perm 350. The Mustang. If you watched any of my other videos, I think I talked about this, but this was a father-son team with a Mustang. This is a 95 Mustang they built in 95. And not much has changed since. They both race the car, and they both enjoy the car, and not much else to say there. Alright, that's the end of that. What else we got? Pacific Raceways. Whoa. Okay. I think this was the first year we were invited here. So this is Corey and the SR powered FC. It changed a little bit, different color or different accent colors, wing on it, whatever, but slight horsepower increase. Slight. And yeah, this was Pacific Raceways on the big track. Again, just shredding it. I think this was the first year we were invited to this, and I don't know what event this was, but this is Pacific Raceways. I think this was David and his Mustang. Yeah, I think that was David. Kevin from Serial 9 and his Cressida. I missed this car. It was a little rougher on the edges, but I missed this car. It was fun watching him roll this thing down the highway for hours on end to a drift event and then drive it home. David, Nikki, Roland, Nikki, somebody going off the dirt. This was a difficult track with the low powered cars because there was such a gap between the corners. Chris. So yeah, this was the same S14, I think. Yeah, but I think this was earlier in the year, so they hadn't done the wrap on it yet. Pretty sure anyway. But SR powered car. Good fun car. This was a Fox body that David built. He had a 2000 Cobra with a Whipple on it that he brought out for a drift event years before this. Holy crap, there's a lot of dirt on my lens. And he decided that was not worth risking for drifting, so he built this Fox body, and it had wild amounts of angle. And it was pretty simple little setup, a good solid V8 in it, a cage, diff, suspension, and angle. And just went for, years on this thing. Oh, wow. Don't know what I was doing with all these slow-mo shots, but trying stuff in my early days. More Corey. Yeah, more Jenner coming down the hill. So this is Corey Keyser, and I think that's Matt Van Kirk behind him. And this is Pete Schroeder from Neptune D, another SR-powered car he put together. Yeah, that was Silver Raceways. I think this was Forum Fest or something. Not 100% sure. Anyway, really awesome track. Like, I'd love to go drive it again one day, but I don't know if that's going to be ever in the cards. Anyway, PGP. Not a lot of pictures from here. This was, I think, the first year we ever went to PGP. So this was Josh driving his Skyline. So yeah, this was a long time ago. So side story here, funny anyway. Josh and I used to go down to the States so much together that they flagged us eventually. And the one day we got stopped at the border and they asked us a bunch of questions, and then they asked us which car we took the last time. And it took us a good minute to figure out whose car and which one of our many cars that we took. And the border guy looked at us like we were out of our minds. And we eventually figured it out. And he's like, "Why do you have so many cars?" And neither one of us had a good answer for a lot of cars. And he eventually let us go, but he was very confused as to why we had to list through all of our cars to remember which one we took. Oh yeah, I remember this. Not something you see rolling down the highway every day. The whole thing was loud. Just tires alone were loud. So a PGP is a pretty small little go-kart track, but for a couple of years we were allowed to do drifting on it, and I think they did some time trial stuff on it too until that got shut down. But it's still an open track, still a very fun go-kart track. But I do miss the days we're allowed to have cars on it. Tyler Grimsley. This was Rob Primo in his street car. This was a very grandma-owned S13 that he bought that he couldn't find anybody to buy from him, so he bought a right-hand drive front clip from it and right-hand drive swapped the whole firewall with his dad, and then made this beautiful 180 240 car. He was beautiful. Well done. Here's another name you guys might remember is Walker Wilkerson. This was his street car. Again, street car. This was a pretty basic little SR car with big wheels and just out for a good time. Oh, we did there? Yeah, I guess so. Well, that's 2011. I'll probably get into 2012 the next time around, which will be, I'll give you a little peek here. But yeah, these are the good old days. Team Purple, Drift Union. Anyway, I'll go through the stories of this one next time. But there's Devin, Steve. He ran away on us. He's into Land Cruisers now. Yes, Steve, I'm watching you. But anyway, that's it for today. I think that was kind of fun. Nobody joined me on my stream, but maybe one person did. But yeah, I think that's it for now. Thanks for watching. If you guys have any questions, let me know. But I will be back with another year, another day. Probably, I don't know.